When you hear the word Armageddon, you likely picture a final, world-ending battle, the finery conclusion of human history. But Armageddon is an actual physical place you can visit today. The word itself is a Greek corruption of the Hebrew Har Megiddo, or Mount Megiddo. This specific hill in northern Israel has drawn military commanders for millennia. In World War I, British General Edmund Allenby secured a decisive victory over Ottoman forces right here. The victory was so crucial to the British Empire that when Allenby was later awarded a peerage, he requested a very specific title, Lord of Armageddon. Why did this specific hill become the focal point for prophecies about the end of time? Megiddo is what archaeologists call a tell, an artificial mound created entirely by human habitation. Over 3,000 years, 30 distinct civilizations built a city here, saw it destroyed, and then built another city directly on top of the debris. To understand why this spot became synonymous with the end of the world, we have to dig straight down through all 30 of those stacked ancient cities to find the absolute beginning. If we strip away the modern and medieval layers, we reach the era of massive clashing empires. Look at the ancient highway known as the Via Maris, or the Sea Road. Anyone moving between the wealth of Egypt in the south and the empires of Mesopotamia in the north had to pass through a narrow physical bottleneck right at Megiddo. Nations were clashing here long before the birth of the religions often associated with modern conflict. In the ancient world, these wars were frequently fought to secure the trade routes that moved through this valley. If you were marching an army or moving goods, Megiddo was the bone in the throat of the ancient world. You couldn't easily bypass it. Whoever physically held this single elevated mound controlled the primary economic vein of the ancient Near East. In the 1920s, a team from the University of Chicago, funded by the Rockefeller Foundation, arrived to excavate these stacked layers of history. They made themselves incredibly comfortable, building living quarters with hot water and even a tennis court right beside the dig site to entertain themselves after work. Their excavation methods were remarkably destructive. When they uncovered a palace room lined with imported seashells, they meticulously documented it and then tore it down to see what was underneath. They were driven by a primitive curiosity to reach the bottom. Instead of preserving each era, they ripped through the layers, often discarding spectacular finds to see what lay at the next level. In this race to uncover the history of Megiddo, early archaeologists physically destroyed some of the most valuable evidence they were searching for. If we stop our descent at the Iron Age layer, we find the ruins of a massive stone structure, a 6-chambered gate. This gate is the center of a fierce academic divide. One group, the Maximalists, argues this architectural blueprint matches gates in other cities mentioned in the Bible, potentially proving the existence of King Solomon's empire. But the Minimalist school argues that these structures actually belong to a later century and a different ruler, King Ahab, suggesting that the biblical accounts of Solomon are exaggerated. The dispute persists because we cannot date the stones themselves. Without organic material to carbon date, we have a physical artifact that is completely silent on its age. Because the stones cannot speak, the gate stays stuck between eras, leaving the story of Megiddo's most famous age to be determined by the framework of the person studying it. Pushing past the Iron Age debates and the demolished palaces, we finally hit the literal bedrock at the bottom of the tell. Down here, the reason for the city's existence becomes purely practical. This spot provides the two absolute requirements for ancient survival, a freshwater spring and the nearby Kini River. Then there is the final piece of the geographic puzzle. Megiddo overlooks a massive, incredibly fertile expanse known as the Jezreel Valley. In Hebrew, Jezreel literally translates to God shall plant. Long before it was an apocalyptic prophecy or a military choke point for clashing empires, Megiddo was simply a geographic machine for sustaining human life. History itself is a tell, a stack of myth and conflict built on the foundation of our most basic need for water and soil.